Mimo bibi akwaba eba Melodies TV. So there is a story trending na a breaking news a free a United States Department. Na ayana occasionally United States Department release human rights report. Na omo release report na omo cite amanamana ayana human rights nsensem akoso a trese entwaye human rights abuse nyama akoso a entwaye intino aba United States Department release human rights report na omo cite serious human rights issues a see Ghana. Let's go and read and see some of the things they said. Obviously, I am expecting them to speak about LGBT and I'm obviously expecting them to speak about it. But let's see some other things that they spoke about. Now, also the US State Department has released its 2022 country reports on human rights practices in Ghana. The executive summary of the report, which was published on the State Department's website, indicated that there were serious human rights issues in Ghana in 2022. It cited violence against the LGBTQI community in Ghana and the enactment of legislation to criminalize LGBTQI activities as serious human rights issues in the country. Obviously, I was expecting them to talk about LGBT. You know, Omakasa about LGBT say, "Embra ye tia LGBT for no, yadie bia etia human rights." That's it. Also, other human rights issues cited in the report included the unlawful killings of persons. Now, I have said I mean say Ghana for be bring attention ebeto, not the LGBT side. Now, I have said no, Oma cite ekumekum kuma ekoso ewo Ghana. Unlawful killings. Also, serious restrictions to free expression and media, business arrest and prosecution of journalists, as well as restrictions to freedom of assembly. Oma sanso cite say aban we empene emankrofo enka wo mo adwen no free expression any media. Oma sanso cite say ye checheche journalists, baseless arrest and prosecution of journalists, as well as restriction of freedom of assembly. Ye ni aye wahana kweku skirt ni journalist e friend saying we fini dia brand ya owo oyejuma one of the pro NDC radio stations. Oh, Power FM was said oheneba boama oheneba boama ko bo kweku skirt audio yeko chi na yeko prosecute na yede no ekokotu mu. Now, also significant human rights issues included credible reports of arbitrary of unlawful killings, including extrajudicial killings, torture or cruel, inhumane or degrading treatment or punishment by the government or on behalf of the government. Arbitrary arrest or detention, serious restrictions on free expression and media, including violence and threats of violence against journalists and unjustified arrest or prosecutions of journalists. Parts of the executive summary read. Also, the other human rights issues include substantial interference with the freedom of peaceful assembly, serious government corruption, lack of investigation of and accountability of gender-based violence, including domestic or intimate partner violence, crimes involving violence or threats of violence targeting lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or intersex, laws criminalizing consensual sex, blah, 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 although not fully enforced, and crimes involving violence or threats of violence targeting persons with disabilities. The report also indicated that even though the government is taking steps to resolve issues of corruption and human rights abuses by officials, the impunity remained a problem. So that is the report. And this is the full report. Let's go and check the full report written on U.S. Department of State or more a website. And I don't know what this report is going to do or all that, but this is the report. Osha executive summary. Also, Ghana is a constitutional democracy with a strong presidency and a unicameral 275 seat parliament. Presidential and parliamentary elections conducted in 2020 were generally peaceful, although there were isolated incidents of violence resulting in as many as 8 deaths, some by security forces. Domestic and international observers assessed the election to be transparent, inclusive, and credible. Also, the Ghana Police Service under the Ministry of Interior is responsible for maintaining law and order. However, the military, which reports to the Ministry of Defense, continue to participate in law enforcement activities in a support role, such as by protecting critical infrastructure. The National Intelligence Bureau handles cases considered critical to state security and answers to Ministry of National Security. Civilian authorities maintained effective control over the security forces. There were reports that members of the security forces committed some abuses, and so that's a summary. Also, significant human rights issues, including credible reports of arbitrary or unlawful killings, including extrajudicial killings, torture or cruel, inhumane or degrading treatment or punishment by the government on behalf of the government. Intino enyamani bia omo kan say enkrofo bi wo hwa ye omo yakayaka de ye kum enkrofo bi ati ase ebi mo so ye bo omo ye omo yakayaka de e wo aban ni din mu osi by the government inti aban na nkasa na ye sa anyama no ana aban ni din mu ene ye sa de do. Arbitrary arrest or detention, serious restrictions on free expression and media, including violence and threats of violence against journalists, and unjustified arrest or prosecutions of journalists, substantial interference with the freedom of peaceful assembly, serious peaceful assembly. Mokai fix the country for wo margin say wo mo eko assemble ewo Independence Square. You hear and say ye de a friend saying amo cars ena cars a omo kwo wo no ye de omo na aba begina ho a ye pese minim se ye kwo wo se den nti no the threat against assembly no omo de no account the freedom of peaceful assembly ni nyaman and they've added all those things. Okay, nti no no the report is on state.gov America for state.gov. You can go and check. So they talked about a lot of things, disappearances. They talked about respect for integrity of the person, arbitrary deprivation of life and other unlawful or politically motivated killings. They expatiated on that. Also, there were a few reports that the government or its agents committed arbitrary or unlawful killings. Officers charged with investigating security forces killings include the Special Investigation Branch of the Ghana Armed Forces and Police Professional Standards Bureau. Also in February, police chased a man suspected of a traffic violation into a traditional chief's palace in Yendi, Northern Region, and opened fire, killing another man and injuring 8 others with stray bullets. In the immediate aftermath, police announced the suspension with reduced pay of the 6 officers involved. But as of November, police had not released the result of an internal investigation. Omoka ekra eka February last year. Say Abranti be police for edinechi. Say almost say one stop in a car, one stop it, and a police for dinechi call a year palace. Ekokobo ni tiukuno ewoho. Omoka no eka ho and stories ni bika ekra refi. But they mention all of those stories. Also on April 24th, police in Kranza, Bono East region, arrested Albert Donko and brought him to the local police station, alleging he was involved in a series of armed robberies. Donko died while in police custody hours later. In a departure from typical practice, police did not announce an operation or arrest had taken place until more than 3 weeks later. Protests erupted on May 18th in response to news of the death, with youth blocking roads and destroying property, including the police station. Police fired live ammunition into the crowd, killing a protester. As of November, police have not concluded an internal investigation into both deaths. Intino Munyamokai and Kranza story where you report here. Abrante bi ekwachi woni fie Albert Donko a police custody. Say ye kuno 3 weeks. 3 weeks a wo ye e police custody. Omo anka hwe. Embebunu nes eti asem ne be sorry ye ansa later ye beti say Abrante ne 3 weeks eno wu ye. Nti omo aka no so aka ho. Also, during the 2020 election period, authorities, media, observers reported as many as 8 killings, with at least 2 killed by the National Election Security Task Force, composed of military and police units, and at least 2 deaths from civilian violence. Investigations into this death remain pending, with little progress 2 years after the incident. You know, Techiman South, a warning sense, they talked about it. Our motor said up till now, abaning ye bibian fa hoye, or more any investigations bian fa assembly ho yentin ho assembia. And so those are the things, quite interesting. Okay, so they talked about the prison and detention center conditions, the conditions in the prisons, arbitrary arrest of the or detention, or more or more, any nyama journalist, babe chichi or more, and all those things. Denial of fair public trial. Osha, also while the constitution and law provide for an independent judiciary, the judiciary was subject to unlawful influence and corruption. Into about judiciary needing said judicial officials reportedly accepted bribes to expedite or postpone cases, lost records, or issued favorable rulings for the payer of the bribe. And U.S. State Department neka said Ghana judges ebimoje bribe. Emma bribe no omudi asem Emma nkrofo ananke ni kwan say edi asem ne momo. They've said it. As to a case then ye bribe ne ye nim omu no munim enomoka. Until they talked about that, political prisoners and detainees. I'll say there were no reports of political prisoners and detainees. Civil judicial procedures and remedies. So this one is supposed to be a good news, right? And all that. So you can get the reports na ewa. Mean to me we didn't know, but you can get the full reports. Early child and forced marriages and all those things. You can get the full reports. Muncha your comment box the moment I say.